Hi, I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins. Welcome to the Underground Railroad. I wanted to take a second to tell you a story. First of all, I want to tell you that, as you know, with the Underground Railroad, the main goal is to help us all obtain our freedom, to get off of our plantation, whatever that plantation is for you. I don't know what it is, but I think a lot of us sometimes we wake up and we are living a life that we didn't expect to live. We're living somebody else's life, and my thought is that if you want to live the life that you're supposed to live, there's a way you can go about doing it. But I think it really requires you to accept God's gifts in the way that they were intended, and sometimes use painful experiences as your opportunity to grow. Now, I'm going to tell you something that's kind of personal. It's a very, very personal story, but I guess since I'm sharing it with everybody now, it's not personal anymore. Um, the actual greatest year of my life was actually the worst year of my life. I was 28 years old, and I was a PhD student, and things just weren't going right. And I'll just say that my relationship had fallen apart. My academic situation was not looking good. Anybody who gets a PhD will tell you. Anybody who gets a PhD from a good school will usually have some good horror stories to tell because it's kind of like being hazed for 4 or 5 years. It was pretty crazy, and it was just a very dark time for me. And I remember, like a lot of people, because I was going through a tough time, and as I was sitting there, and I remember sitting at my desk and I was in tears because I just felt like everything was going wrong. I felt like things were not meant to happen for me. Um, I remember a couple things happened. First thing that happened was I gained a deeper sense of resolve to get to where I wanted to get to. I remember saying to myself, one of two things is going to happen. Either I'm going to get what I came for, I'm going to get my PhD, or I'm just going to die trying. One of those two things are going to happen. Quitting was not going to happen. So in a way, it was like my spirit had died and come back to life. And sometimes when something dies and comes back to life, it comes back stronger, more immune to the forces that are designed to kill it, just like a bacteria or anything else or any living creature kind of does that. So that was one thing. Sometimes you really don't start to live until you've kind of already died a little bit. And so in that moment, a piece of Boyce Watkins kind of died, and a new, stronger, more resilient Boyce Watkins came to life. In fact, that's the Boyce Watkins that you know right now. That man, I was a very different man in my 20s. I My goal was to play the game, and I thought that if I believe the myth. I believe that if you are black and you play the game and you do what you're supposed to do, everything's gonna be all right. That every black person before you who's been discriminated against, the reason they didn't get what they wanted was because they were somehow unqualified or not as good at what they did as you are, which is yet another myth that I think a lot of young people are fed, and sometimes we don't get it until we go through it. The second thing that happened was I remember as I was reflecting, I looked at my dissertation advisor, and this guy was a big shot. I mean, in the field of finance, he was just one of the biggest people in the field. I mean, he was like a Michael Jordan kind of figure in our field. And I remember looking at him, and he was maybe 60 years old, and he was a white guy. And I remember thinking to myself, if I get everything I want, and I have the perfect career, and I accomplish everything this man has accomplished, and in 20 years I'm living the life that he's living right now, how will I feel? And I thought that I would feel good about it, but I realized that I said, wait a minute, I would probably end up wasting my life. And because unfortunately, I started looking around and I noticed that a lot of scholars, we spend our time sitting around writing research papers that nobody ever reads. You publish stuff for a journal that's read by like 80 people. You teach a bunch of white kids because the white universities are paying you the most money. Nothing against white people, but I like black people more than any other group of people in the country, and I'm not ashamed to say that. I wanted to be around black people, and then it becomes even more difficult because a lot of HBCUs are pretty conservative. So sometimes those can be tough places to work too. So I was kind of stuck, and I remember just sort of saying, I think the reason that these people have brought me in, because I was the first black student they'd ever admitted to the program. I said to myself, I think the reason that they brought me in is because they they think that they can make me into one of them. The best thing I can ever be in this situation is a replica of a white guy. I could fit in, play by the rules, fit into the white male profession because finance is a white male dominated kind of discipline, and I didn't like that reality because I said, well, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me being the best black man I can be? If I spend my whole life just trying to be a replica of a white guy, then I'm always going to be second rate because I'll never be as good at being a white guy as white guys already are. So when I thought about that, I said, maybe this isn't the way I'm supposed to go. If you're born and you're born with six fingers, you can spend your whole life, or six fingers on a given hand, you can spend your whole life sawing off that last finger so you can fit in and be normal. Or maybe God meant for you to be the best piano player who ever lived because you got six fingers and everybody else has five on each hand. And so that's what I did. I began to go back to the fundamentals. I thought about something that Reverend Jesse Jackson says all the time. It's a cliche, and we've heard it a million times, but it means so much. Now, Reverend Jackson lives not too far from me, and so hope maybe I think he might like hearing this. He has this saying, "I am somebody," and if you recall, he always said that, and I didn't know what it meant until that moment, and I realized I am somebody. I am somebody, even if I don't get my PhD. I am somebody, even if I never make a lot of money. I am somebody, even if I'm never validated by these people around me, who we sometimes look to these individuals to tell us who we are. We look to them to give us awards and to give us pay raises and to give us the big office on the corner and to give us these esteemed positions. And the reason that this is an inhibitor to your freedom is that it's nonsensical. It's in fact it's maniacal to look to the descendants of your historical oppressors to validate you and to tell you who you are or to tell you that you are a worthy human being. Other people don't look to us to tell them who they are. So why should we look to other people, especially those who've been trained to oppress us, to tell us that we're worthy? That makes no sense because the minute you get out of line, the minute you start behaving like a bad Negro, maybe because you speak freely or you demand fairness and equality, you demand to be treated fairly, the minute you speak up, they're going to threaten to take that away from you. And so once I realized that, I thought about that and I said, wait, I can validate myself. I don't, now don't get me wrong. When they gave me the PhD, I took it. When they gave me the money, I took it. When they gave me the important position, I took it. But I also told myself, even if they took all these things away, even if I'm butt naked in the street without a degree, without any money, I still am somebody. And that's something I think you want to understand is that you are somebody no matter what anybody says. If you're living a good life and you're doing what's best for your community and you are a strong black man, a strong black woman, you are somebody. And I want you to hold on to that because if you're looking to other people for validation, then that puts your self esteem at risk, your own self perception at risk. So don't give that trust to anybody else. And that also allows you to fight freely and fairly. It allows you to stand up for yourself and even when you get the opposition, even when people tell you that you're stupid, or when people tell you that you're an angry black woman, or that you're an angry black man, or that you're not qualified, or whatever, you still feel good about who you are, and you don't find yourself bending and folding so that these other people will like you, like some kind of ninth grader or some kid trying to fit in. That's not who we are. If you're gonna fight for anything, you need to be prepared to stand up and don't look to the person or the group that you're fighting against to somehow tell you that you're a decent person. Because the fact is that you are somebody no matter what anybody says. So that's what I learned during my experience, which, as I told you, it was an incredibly dark year, it was incredibly difficult. I don't like thinking about it because it's not particularly comfortable to even reflect on that. But at the same time, I look back on that year and I say, wow, I am so happy that I went through the pain and personal trauma I experienced because literally that was when Boyce Watkins was born. That was when I became the guy that's talking to you right now. If I hadn't gone through that year, I'd be sitting up in some office writing research papers that nobody ever reads and thinking that I was somebody because someone had pat me on the head and said, "You're a good Negro, Boyce. We like you." Well, that's not who I am, and I don't think that's who you should be either. It doesn't mean you should hate anybody. Love is always stronger than hate. I'm a strong believer in loving hard, but at the same time, don't you let nobody disrespect you. That's an important part of being free. Remember, you are somebody. I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins. Thank you for checking out the Underground Railroad Project, and please go visit yourblackworld.net when you get a chance. And until we meet again, please stay strong, be blessed, and be educated. I am gone. Peace.